Welcome to the Leading Conversations podcast, sponsored by the Excel Leadership Network. On each episode, JD Pairing will have conversations with church planting pastors and leaders from around the country. You can learn more about how to connect with Excel at the end of this podcast. Let's join JD now and listen in on this leading conversation.
It is so great to have Tim and Kyah Combs with us for the Excel Leadership Podcast today. Thanks, Tim and Kyah, for being here.
Hey, thank you for having us.
Well, this should be fun. I just want to ask you guys just some questions about your life, ministry, all of that. But let's start. I believe both of you are pastors' kids. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Well, tell us how was that for each of you? I know there's some war stories there and some good things.
Go
ahead, honey.
I think it was, I think the way that my parents did it, they did it well. I think in how they kind of integrated us into the church, not too much pressure on going into ministry, giving us information that we needed at certain times, that things that were happening in the church. So I think they did a good job at not turning me away and hating it. I mean, there was obviously drama, but I think for the most part, I think they did a pretty decent job at, giving us information when we needed it, shielding us when we needed to be shielded. And so for me, it was a good experience. And out of three brothers, two of them were me and my middle brother in ministry, full-time ministry. So I think they did a pretty good job at giving us a good perspective of church and ministry. And when I was actually going to go into full-time ministry, the day of, I was getting ready to take my first full-time job. I called my grandpa, my dad's dad, who was also AG pastor for 60 years. I asked him, Grandpa, what advice do you have? And this is right before he died. I'm waiting for these great proverbs of wisdom or something. And my grandpa says, listen, best advice I can tell you about going into full-time ministry is when they run you out of town, get in front of the crowd and act like you're leading the band. Thanks, Grandpa. Praise the Lord. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, when they run me out of town? Is there a mob involved? What are you talking about? He's like, yeah, just get yourself a marching stick and act like you're leading the marching band. I'm like, I don't know. What kind of advice is that? But yeah, it was good. It was a good experience, I think.
How did you come to Christ, Tim?
How did I?
Yeah.
The tangible time that I actually remember was, and I've talked to Kyah about this, my dad had the craziest, weirdest groups. That's a whole nother thing. I could do a whole podcast on the weirdest evangelist groups that came into our churches as kids and just the stuff they did. We'll talk about it all the time. But there was a couple quality by mistake, I think, that my dad booked. One of them was a children's evangelist. And this guy was phenomenal. He was not cheesy. He was a ventriloquist, and they had professional puppets, and they set up.
Wait a minute. You said he was not cheesy and he was a ventriloquist. Isn't that like opposites there? Is that possible?
Easy because she's a ventriloquist.
Depends on what your stick is, I guess.
No, it wasn't like, if you can imagine ventriloquists already being cheesy, then put Christian on top of that. That just adds another layer of cheese to the already.
Jokes have to be mainstream Christian jokes.
Yeah. So anyway, he was really good. He was a good ventriloquist. You couldn't say magic back then. It had to be illusion. You couldn't say he did magic. It was illusions that he did, but he would, flash paper and set things on fire. And it just grabbed me. And then he did this whole salvation thing. And I remember exactly what he said I was probably about 10 and raised my hand and went down to the front and received salvation. And it was a good experience. The guy was incredible, and I really enjoyed it. And that's what I actually gave my heart to the Lord.
I think you're the first person I've ever heard who said I came to Christ because of a ventriloquist. Did you actually pray to God, or was he praying the prayer for you?
Was it him or was it the dummy? Was it him? Was it the
dummy?
No,
he would do his little thing, and then the dummy would go back in his suitcase, and then he would do the salvation thing, and that's when I went down.
Hey, Kyah, what was it like for you growing up in a ministry home?
It was a little different. I have an older brother and sister who are like over a decade older than me. So they grew up very, very, very strict. And then when I came into the picture, my parents kind of had that same mentality with me, but my dad was in a different position. He started in the Latin American district, and then he went to the English district. So by the time he was there, my dad was already, or by the time I was young enough, my dad was already in the English district. So he was at larger churches that had Christian schools. So I was able to play sports and, kind of have a little bit different upbringing than my brother, sister. Like they weren't allowed to play sports. There's church every night. I mean, we literally had church every single night. It was like Sunday school, Sunday morning, and then church, and then take a nap, and then come back for night church. And Monday night was visitation, and Tuesday night was prayer. Wednesday night was midweek. Thursday night was choir practice. Friday night was youth, and we had Saturday off. And by that time, my parents were, they just didn't have any time. So it was like I pretty much grew up like an only child, didn't really get to do a lot of stuff. Like we didn't really, never went camping, never went, did things that a lot of kids did. And then I was not allowed to play with anybody unless they were Pentecostal. So my whole street was Catholic. And the only people that were Pentecostal was a deaf family that lived next door to me. And I think their kids were probably maybe 5-10 years older than me. So it was a challenge. It wasn't something that I really wanted to do. In fact, when I went to Bible school, it was like I had two options. One was going into a group that was called Truth. And then the other option was to go to Bible school. And I figured, well, if I go to Bible school, then I at least have a way to like get in and out. I don't have to be on this tour and be like somebody watching me 24/7. And that's where I met Tim. So he kind of brought me back, and he's the one who really made me interested in being in ministry, because it was like I finally found somebody who knew every single song that I knew growing up. Like one of our first dates, we just started singing these weird worship hymns, and I was like, you're the only person I've ever met that knows all of these things. And now we spend hours talking on road trips or whatever, and we're like, these songs are terrifying. Like I can't believe like we grew up like this. It's like we felt like we were in a cult or something. But the good thing is we learned so much that we always, like, for our kids, made it like, this is just what we do. It's fun. It's family time. And, so it put a little spin on it to, make it a little different for when we raised our kids who actually love the church now. So.
Hey, did you come to Christ through a ventriloquist as well?
No, because I was the ventriloquist, JD. I was the child evangelist. So
she really was a child evangelist.
I was literally doing kids camps since I was probably the age 9. It was like guest speakers, and my parents had me singing all over the place. It was like child ventriloquist singer. And that was kind of like my growing up years. I was very famous with I don't know if you've ever heard of the, what's their names?
Christian Businessmen's Association?
Something Fellowship Businessmen's International. Gosh, I can't remember. I think they might be gone now. I don't really know.
I mean, you got to kind of word that different. You can't say I was very popular with it.
Yeah, okay. Full Businessmen's Fellowship International. They actually helped me buy my first dummy, so.
She has pictures of her when, like, they actually took professional photographs of her as a kid with her puppets. And the first time I ever saw her do it, we just started dating, and she was doing a crusade thing with the puppets. And after the thing was over, we got in the car, and it was her mom and dad. Her dad was driving, and I was in the back seat with her. And as we're driving, it's just us in the car. And one of her puppets named the real expensive professional one. His name was Scooter. And her dad was going, her dad just out of the blue goes, man, Scooter did a great job today. That was great. Scooter was all over it. And I'm in the car going, it's just us in the car, though. We could say and they never do. They never break character. It just was a thing that no one ever acknowledged the fact that, like, she's actually the one that was doing it.
I'm trying to tell you, those were my siblings, were my dummies. Those were like.
I'm like, can we talk about it? No, it's just us in the car. Like, why are we still acting like no one's around? We could actually talk about it. And and she also will never do the voice without the puppet. So I tried for over almost 30 years, try to get her to do the voice. She won't do it. The puppet has to be there. It's a sacred, weird oath that you make, like a samurai. And that's the only time you can ever use the voice with the puppet.
I think I've just spent more time talking about ventriloquism than I have in my entire life. So that is great. So do you still do that, Kyah?
You know what? It's probably been 3 years since I've done it. I would do it like for special occasions, or like when we would go out and do like back in the day when you would do evangelism, you go to churches, or I do kids crusades. But I know my parents don't have a computer. They're not going to see this, but somehow on the move to Denver, he's missing. So I've been asking everyone. He wasn't in storage. And if I told my parents that, it would be like a death in the family. So I'm been praying that he pops up somewhere. I've been watching eBay, and I have no idea what happened to him right now. That's one. I have a couple others, but right now I'm working on something. I'm working on a new thing. I'm working on getting something very exciting, a girl, and maybe doing a little thing again. So we'll see.
Well, we have to see this, but we will all be on the lookout for Scooter. He's backsliding right now. He ran away.
Yes.
So as far as going into the ministry, was that just something, did you have a call? Was that just expected? How did that happen for you guys?
For me, just being around, we were around, we had, I think there was a lot of, my parents never pushed it physically, but we were always involved in, one of the coolest things that our district did was they had a PK, MK, EK, whatever it was, camp for pastors' kids, missionary kids, evangelist kids. And it was like all these weirdo kids get together and you find solace in the weirdness of the PK camp. And they talked about ministry, and that was a really good experience. And there was my parents used to go to this thing once a year called camp meeting, and it was in Brooks, Oregon. And it was this huge, all these churches would get together and come for a week, and they had this huge big wooden building they called the Tabernacle, and wooden pews, and they'd have these speakers come in, and my mom would play. There, like 5,000 people would come and invade this campground, and my mom would usually play the piano or the organ for it. And one couple of the years I played drums, and they had the speaker come in. They had some pretty high profile. I didn't know it as a kid, but now seeing, growing up and going, wow, that guy spoke at the camp meeting. But one of the guys that came, his name is Alton Garrison. I don't know if you ever heard that guy before, but he came and spoke. I think he's Scottish or something. Came and spoke and talked about how that this generation of pastors, it was like a relay race, and the last person ready to hand off the baton to the anchor had finished this last lap and is ready to hand off the baton, and there was no one there. Mm-hmm. And he was like, that's your generation. And so I think that's probably when, if you feel like you want to take the baton, come down. And I went down, and that was probably the first actual call that I really felt like this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And so that was my calling experience.
Did Scooter tell you that you needed to do it, Kyah? Was that?
You know what? I don't know. I guess you just figure that you have a calling when I remember singing my first solo at 15 months. Like, I remember being on stage and being super small and being terrified. And my brother was playing the piano, and it was a Spanish church. And I remember people were laughing because I was so little, and I was singing like, I think it was an Andre Crouch song, which people don't even know who he is anymore probably, but I was singing this song that my brother was a fan of. And I remember getting done singing and just crying. And I remember I was like, I'm never going to sing again. This was the most embarrassing thing. And then my next memories were being like 3 and standing on a trash can and singing like the solos for the choir. Like, somehow my parents just pushed me into this, I guess. And then I just started doing it. So I just really started doing evangelism since I was a baby. And I think just being in a household where it was like, it wasn't an enjoyable experience per se when you were home as far as ministry, because it always seemed like it was interfering with everything else that kind of like I wanted to do. So I kind of ran from it for a little bit when I could, for a couple years. And because I took like a year off before I even went and met my husband. So I think he was probably one to bring me back in. But I think as a child, because I was kind of doing it and I could see the responses to people when I would sing or when I would do ventriloquism. And at the end, I would tie in a salvation message, and, kids would raise their hands, kids that were young, way older than me, and parents. And so I understood that I had a calling. It's just, I just feel like it was always a part of my life. It wasn't like I was in a group somewhere and I was like, wow, like, it's that aha moment that everybody talks about. I didn't really have that. It's just kind of like, I feel like I just it's kind of like I was born into doing it, I guess. Yeah.
You did your first solo at 15 months?
15 months, yes. And I remember exactly the church, where I was standing, everything. Yeah, it was absolutely terrifying.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on from this because that's crazy, and it's hilarious, and it's wonderful, and it's disturbing. But let's talk about church planting.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes. Well, it's really interesting just hearing people's stories. People come from all different backgrounds. God's just working in everybody's life, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
Talk about church planting. How did you get pulled toward that?
Well, a very interesting story. I grew up AG. My dad was an AG pastor for years, my grandpa before him, and got out of high school. My dad moved, took a church in Northern California. I went to Bible school in Northern California, and then got out of Bible school, took my first job with her dad, and then worked a couple of different AG jobs. And it wasn't until that I started realizing, after probably our third church, AG church that we were at, and really trying to grow the youth group without, student ministries, I kept wondering, like, why there was always like obstacles to what I felt like that was keeping us from growing a large group. And like, we couldn't do, we were very limited to what we could do for our outreach, the music, dress. One pastor told me, I don't want this was Southern California, I don't want the kids coming to church in shorts and tank tops. You have to make sure they have pants on and t-shirts. And I mean, it was just things like that. And I started getting really frustrated, going, why does our church have 50 kids in the youth group, and the church across the street, which was a Calvary Chapel or a non-denom church, has like 7,000 kids? Like, what's going on here? And they're doing cool stuff like movie nights and U2 tribute bands or whatever. We're across the street, and I'm trying to have a Bible study, making sure everybody has t-shirts on. So it's like, I never understood like what. So we literally made a decision. Let's try to go do something non-denominational for once and just see, because I see all these non-denominational churches blowing up, and we seem to like not have it all together. And so there was an opening in Chino Hills, and we went and talked to this guy. His name was Ed Marino. And we sat down, and I think by this time I'm like 20 something.
Yeah, I don't know.
And he said, I planted this church. And that was the first time I'd ever heard that in my life, which that's pretty unfortunate, coming from Bible college and being a part of several AG churches. I've never heard that term. And now I'm in like my 20s, been doing ministry for I didn't understand what that meant. And he told me like, oh, there's a whole science, and there's a lot of church planting groups out there. And I think at that time, honestly, Stadia was just kind of coming onto it actually wasn't Stadia back then. It was it Stadia?
I thought it was Stadia, yeah.
But it was just kind of coming to the forefront, and they were really doing some serious stuff in Southern California. So I was like, wait, people give you money? And so he's explaining this whole thing. There's a science, there's a process to it. And I was extremely intrigued. And when we actually got the job and went to work there, and I remember getting up on a Sunday morning and seeing all these people and going, wait, you're responsible for all these people being here? You personally are responsible in some way of everybody being in this church? He said, yeah. Going door to door. His whole thing was he would pass out cookies or something. I mean, you couldn't do that now, but it was an incredible concept to me. And we both just got hooked on it, because it was like, hey, you can, from the very beginning, you form your own, you're creating your own culture, and it's you're bringing all these people in. It just sounded super interesting to us. And so after that, he resigned, we left. Long story short, we went to boot camp, a Stadia boot camp, and loved it. And they did all these exercises, and you had to create, like a plant model, and you had to.
So like, if you were given a scenario like, okay, Tim, you're going to be in Southern California. This is your area. This is the demographic. How are you going to build your church? And they actually put us against each other on different teams. And my team actually came in first because I found puppets. And I integrated the puppets into our team. So actually, they've always kind of helped a little bit.
So we had no expectations going into it. We're probably not going to fail. I mean, we're probably going to fail in this thing. I don't know if we're going to make it.
People were dropping like flies, I'll tell you.
They graduated us with flying colors and sent us to Southern California. And so we went and planted our first church in SoCal and left there because my parents had some health issues and went back up to North, which was not probably a very good decision, but we did anyway. But yeah, that was our first church planting experience. And it's unfortunate that it happened so late. Like, I wish we would have been doing it from the very beginning, but we kind of caught on to it a little bit later, and then got exposed to all these different networks and with Excel. I mean, it's just, that's our jam. I mean, if we had to do anything in church, it would definitely be a part of church planting.
Now, I first met you guys, you were getting ready to plant in Denver. You just moved there. What happened there? Because now you're back in SoCal.
Oh, in Denver. So
did it have anything to do with puppets?
Not this time, because he's missing. So maybe we'll find him here.
He got lost. Okay.
The covenant protocol was amazing. How they formatted. So they told us we want to plan aggressively in Denver, and there's money. And the support group was, we sign up for a year and we shadow another planner who was a year ahead of us in his development of his own church. So they connected us with him. And so we hit the ground running. We started meeting with him. They give you like a certain amount of time, a year, to develop, I think, a 25-member team. There's different milestones that you have to have, like start off with 5, 15, and after the year, you should have a team of about 30 people.
You break out groups. It's a whole, they have a whole formula.
It's very easy. I mean, it's like a coloring book. So for someone like me, I'm like, okay, this is great. It's like IKEA instructions. You're like, okay, step 1, step 2. It was very simple, very easy. We loved our Josh Ferris was our coach. Loved that guy. Loved his whole team. Loved his approach to ministry, and just got, for the first time, it was so refreshing, and just meeting normal people who were good at what they do, and the system worked. So after a year, we had our team, and we were looking at property in the area, and we were getting ready to make some pretty serious, substantial moves and commitments. And when it came down to the wire, I felt like, this is not something that we're supposed to commit to. And did not know why. I had no idea. I just felt like, I don't know why. I love all the people. This has been a 5-star experience for both of us. But for the next step, which is to sign what they call the covenant agreement, which means you're signing for 3 years, and that it's a contract, and like you're almost like legally bound to participate. And it's what you're supposed to do, because they'd given us a lot of money and given us time and patience and everything, coaching. It was just the whole thing. And I was like, we're not supposed to do it. This is where our journey stops. And so she was like, well, you're going to have to sit down with the people that helped you, believed in you, encouraged you, and tell them, like, this is where our journey stopped. So I'm like, this is terrible. And we had they call it a conference, midwinter conference, and it's thousands of people from the denomination gather. And so I was like, well, I'll talk to my church planning director there. We'll sit down and have lunch, and I'll tell him. So we sat down, and his name was Brian. I said, Brian, our journey stops here, and we're not going to sign the agreement. And I don't know why. I honestly do not know why. I just don't feel like we should go any further. And he said, well, we don't argue with the Holy Spirit. When the Holy Spirit feels, that you're being led, we don't argue with that, and we're disappointed. But hey, if you feel like that's something God's calling you to do, we totally understand. And he was very gracious, even though probably put his job on the line a little bit, but he still was very gracious with us. About a week after that, COVID hit. Not even a week. COVID hit and the whole city shut down. And so all the churches were immediately shut down. No more. And we were thinking about leasing property. And if we would have done that, we would have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And all of our momentum that we had built would have just been completely shut down. And we probably would have lost a year's worth of work if we would have continued with it.
We were just first stages. So like someone like Josh had already had an established team. He already had come out of another church, and he had taken, probably, I would say like 2/3 of his church had come with him from the other church, and they were building together. So they already had momentum, and and a whole team to do that. Where we were literally taking people off the street downtown. I mean, we lived in this loft, and one of the guys would come in. He'd just walk in our house. He's going, "Yeah, I'm going out to."
His name was Drew. He knocked on my door and he goes, "Can you pray for me?" And I was like, "Yes, finally, that's a win. Finally, I'm doing it right now." And I was like, "Yeah, Drew, come in. What can I pray with you about?" And he was like, "I'm going to buy cocaine from a guy that I don't know, and I don't know what could possibly happen. So could you just pray for protection?" And I was like, "I don't know what to do about
it. You need to stop him. Like that's." So, I mean, it was just, we were literally dealing with like new converts. I think we might've had a couple people who had a church background that were kind of like part of it, but it was literally like all brand new and being like really going out and doing evangelism. So when the COVID thing hit and we all got locked in, it was just like, it was like, wow, this was just insane. Like we would have been so stuck, and we just,
I literally didn't know what we were going to do. And I was like, I don't know what this is or what's going to happen. So our landlord in the loft that we had, they're very, very strict and don't give any leeway whatsoever. Like there's no bargaining. There's no going around the contract. There's no messing around at all. So we called and said, we don't really have any income because our income stopped after that year. We don't have an income, and I know there's rent on this place and it's pretty substantial, but we can't really go anywhere yet because we don't have a plan. What can you do? And the property management company literally said, you guys could stay an extra couple weeks, a month, whatever. And I think we stayed.
Yeah, because I staged the house and it was like, easy.
So they literally let us stay there for free for like another month and said, yeah, don't worry about it. And I was like, what? Like, that's insane. So we stayed during the time we're trying to figure out what we're going to do. Her mom and dad, who were pastoring in Los Angeles County, they're getting older, having some health issues. And so we're like, well, maybe that's a possibility. And then, they had property in a building that hadn't been used. And by this time, COVID had shut the whole thing down. So they weren't in their building, not using their property. So we're like, well, let's just call your mom and dad and see what possibilities may be there. I don't even know if your dad likes me or not, but let's just call and see if like there's maybe an opportunity. And there was 3 fleeces that we put out. It was
hey Gideon.
It was denominational freedom. Like we don't want to be stuck with a denomination. The name and the brand and authority there's 4. There was 4 stages that I'm like, these things have to go into place. And if you don't know her dad, I'm like, there's probably like 0 chance of any one of those happening at all. But I'm like, okay. So we had about a 4-hour conversation on the phone, and every box got checked off. And I was like completely shocked. So denominational freedom, yes, click. Okay. The name, no big deal, click. Authority, the transition goes through, and like I'm not trying to co-pastor with somebody. I need to be able to do the whole thing myself. With Kyah, we need to have creative control over everything. Yes, check. So we just kind of went down the box and made sense and made the move. And so now here we are. Still, the process kind of slowed down because of COVID, but doors have just opened and opened and opened and opened. And we came in and there was nobody here. So we just started tearing stuff up with no budget and no plan, and throwing pews out, and just completely redid the main sanctuary, this building that we're sitting in right now. This is a kid center that we redid just on literally no budget, no money. I think we maxed out a credit card doing the whole thing. I think it's like $15,000-$20,000 we spent so far.
But it would have been 5-6 times that.
And no one's getting a salary. We're not getting a salary. Her mom and dad's not getting paid. Our staff is all volunteer. We haven't had a salary in a year and a half. And it's like this weird kind of just Elijah being fed by the ravens time in our ministry, where it's like stuff just happened, doors open, we resell stuff. You would crack up right now because we just bought
do not say it. It is beautiful.
A 71 camping trailer. So I think you met Phil, right? Phil and Juana Nesta. You met them before? So they had a cargo trailer they're trying to get rid of. And so we bought that, fixed some stuff up on it, resold it, bought another trailer. And we're talking about $3,000-$4,000 that we're making on some of these. So we just bought a camper that we're going to redo and sell that. But it's just little things like that. God just has supernaturally supplied every need that we have. And we're just excited to actually do a actual hard open, which is going to be probably Christmas. So
the thing is too, like, we know that Denver was a place we were supposed to go because we learned so much about outreach and about starting from scratch and personalities and culture and millennials and Gen Zs, all these things, being with the first year church planners, seeing what they go through. So it was like really awesome for us because I think church planners it's super cool. Like church planning is the coolest thing in the world. Like but it is a movement because it's like you have these people who have a hunger for God, but they're willing to take a risk because church planning is not without risk. You don't know, how you're going to get these people to stay. What is going to be your culture? How are you going to set the vision? So it's kind of like we're all like a bunch of these like, I don't know, these like renegades going around and wrestling these feral cats to come in. But it's exciting at the same time. So I think for us, Denver was amazing. It was an awesome year for us, like to be able to, be able to be a part of Excel, like bringing that into our lives and just being able to grow as a couple and really figure out how to get people who are unchurched, de-churched, like from scratch. And while we were doing that whole year, I was doing worship at a lot of conferences and doing a lot of bilingual worship. Because I can't speak Spanish, but I can sing in Spanish, and you would think I could speak Spanish because of my accent. I've been doing it since I was a kid, so we were able to do that, which kind of prepared us for the area we're in now, which is a Latino neighborhood, and we've been able to bring that in. Most of our team is all bilingual. They're third generation Latinos and younger and super excited. So it kind of prepared us for being here without even knowing what we were going to be doing.
Wow. Hey, thank you guys. We're out of time. Thanks for telling your story. It's fun to hear how God just guides, and I'm really looking forward to you guys being able to open and seeing what God is doing, and would love to have you come back in a little while when you're off the ground and tell us how it's going and tell us if you found Scooter or not. So thank you for being with us today.
All right. Thanks, JD.
Thanks, JD.
Thanks for joining the Leading Conversations podcast. We hope that you found it both helpful and encouraging. At Excel Leadership Network, our focus is on the church planter rather than the church. If you'd like to find out more about us, visit our webpage at excelnetwork.org. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. See you next time with another Leading Conversation.